Hello everyone. Today let's continue following the fascinating story of Tieu Ca. Today there will be a very interesting situation in her life, so let's explore it together. Everything in Tieu Ca's life is gradually falling into place. The most important thing she had been worried about for a long time has finally been resolved. Her old house was sold for a good price, giving her enough financial resources to buy a spacious piece of land, ideal for building a new house. This is a major turning point in her life, as all the difficulties are gradually being solved. At the same time, the relationship between Tieu Ca and Hung has become increasingly close. She has started to open up and understand him more. His gentle care warms her heart. Although they haven't directly expressed it, the two of them have begun to find harmony in their feelings. Their relationship is progressing well, and Tieu Ca feels fortunate to have someone like Hung by her side. Today, as usual, Tieu Ca took her child to school and then started a new day of work. But today seemed to be a particularly lucky day. She received a fresh batch of tomatoes from busy farmers. It felt like a great opportunity had come her way, so she started selling them with great joy. And surprisingly, everything went very smoothly today. There were more buyers than ever, which made her feel that her work was becoming easier and more enjoyable. She can clearly feel the changes in her life, as everything seems to be getting easier, from her work to her relationships. Things are no longer big challenges, but steady steps on a new path. Tieu Ca has started to experience true happiness, even from the simplest things in life. She knows that with effort and sincere love, any difficulty can be overcome. In another corner, Tieu Ca's ex-husband, the one who had caused her so much pain and suffering, was also gradually changing. After a long time, he had found a stable job at Hung's woodworking workshop. The first few months were not easy at all, but he persevered, always working hard to prove himself and improve his life. He realized that despite the many mistakes he had made in the past, he could not continue living in regret. He wanted to do something, even if it was small, to make up for his past wrongs. Today was the day he received his salary, and the feeling of a man who had worked hard to earn his money filled him with pride. But what made him decide to do something special today was the image of Tieu Ca struggling every day. He remembered the evenings when she had to trudge home, tired from cooking, and especially the image of the smoky firewood stove, which made her face so many difficulties. The poverty and hardship surrounded her, but Tieu Ca always held on, never complaining. He thought, if he had the chance to start over, he would not let Tieu Ca suffer any longer. He wanted to do something to make it up to her, a small change that could help make her life easier. And so he decided to buy a gas stove, a convenient stove that would spare her from the hard work of firewood. When he brought the gas stove over, Tieu Ca was not home. He stood outside for a moment, looking into her small house, feeling a quiet sadness rise within him. He carefully placed the stove down, as if each of his actions was a way to make up for the hurt he had caused. He knew that, even if she never forgave him, and even if their relationship could never return to what it was, he wanted to lighten his heart, to no longer live with the burden of guilt. He did not expect her to accept or thank him, because he knew that what he had done could not undo what had been lost. But he wanted to do what was right, at least in the small things. In his heart, there was no greater regret than not being able to do anything for her and their child over the years. After a long while of being unable to reach Tieu Ca, Hung decided to go find her himself. He felt restless, worried, unsure of what was happening. He brought some fruit, hoping to cheer her up, and also wanted to give a small gift to little Han. But when he arrived, he saw a scene that made his heart suddenly ache. In the kitchen, Tieu Ca's ex-husband was installing the gas stove he had bought for her. Hung stood frozen at the door, looking inside, his heart feeling as if someone had squeezed it. Although he couldn't see Tieu Ca anywhere, the scene before him made him feel a deep sadness. He never expected that the man Tieu Ca had once divorced, the one who had caused her so much pain, would still be present in her life. The sight was a painful reminder of everything she had endured, of the wounds still unhealed in her heart. Hung looked around, but Tieu Ca was nowhere to be seen. He felt a sense of emptiness. She wasn't here, only her ex-husband still silently appearing in the lives of her and their child. He didn't know what to do, and a feeling of helplessness rose within him. At that moment, he realized that Tieu Ca was still facing all the difficulties and struggles alone, without anyone truly by her side to share the burden. Hung stepped in, trying to conceal the anxiety in his heart, but his gaze couldn't hide his disappointment. He looked at the ex-husband, saying nothing, just silently standing there. The scene made him feel even sadder. Sad because Tieu Ca was still fighting through everything by herself. He wondered, did she feel lonely? Did she still feel love and care from her ex-husband? Or was it just an attempt to make up for old wounds? That feeling was something very uncomfortable in Hung's heart, as if he were standing outside, unable to protect her, unable to do anything to help her escape the past. He couldn't understand. Did Tieu Ca still feel anything for her ex-husband? Or was it simply familiarity, a habit she couldn't easily let go of? The unanswered questions swirled around in his mind, and Hung wondered if there was anything he could change. He wished right at this moment that he could take Tieu Ca home, take her away from the worries and exhaustion she was enduring. He wished he could ask her clearly about her feelings for him. Did she still love him, or was it all just sympathy and care that he was giving her? Hung looked at the gas stove, the gift that Tieu Ca's ex-husband had brought, and his heart grew heavier. He didn't know if Tieu Ca would feel grateful for that help, or if she simply saw it as part of the responsibility he still had to carry. At that moment, Hung realized one thing. The love between him and Tieu Ca was never a simple story. It wasn't about beautiful gestures or sweet words he gave her, but about a continuous struggle, patience, and understanding. He couldn't change her past, but he hoped that through each of his actions, he would gradually make her feel secure, feel loved, and no longer feel alone. Hung wanted to ask her about what she was feeling, about the complex emotions in her heart, but he didn't know where to begin. Would she be willing to share all her thoughts and feelings with him, or had the wounds in her heart run too deep to heal easily? That feeling made Hung feel uncertain. He just wanted her to know that no matter how difficult things were, he would always be by her side, even if she didn't need him or couldn't forgive him. But at least he wanted her to feel the sincere affection he had for her, not for any other reason, but simply because he loved her and wanted her to be happy. When Tieu Ca picked up her child from school and returned home, she felt a sense of relief when she saw the familiar house. As soon as she stepped through the door, she saw the table piled with fresh fruit. A warm and familiar feeling rose within her, and she immediately knew this was a gift from Hung. She looked over, letting out a soft sigh. He had surprised her once again with his care and attention that made her heart feel deeply moved. Tieu Ca and her child happily sat down to eat the fruit. Everything felt so comfortable in that simple space. The two of them shared pieces of sweet fruit, and the sound of little Han's laughter made the atmosphere in the house even warmer. As she stood up to prepare dinner, Tieu Ca suddenly noticed something unusual in the kitchen. A new gas stove, neatly installed and ready to use. She was surprised, staring at the new stove, and then it suddenly occurred to her, it must be Hung who brought it up. She couldn't be mistaken. Only he would do something so thoughtful. The corner of her mouth naturally curved into a smile she hadn't even realized she had. She felt happy, not because of the material gift, but because of Hung's sincere care. He always quietly appeared in her life, looking after her gently but with so much affection. She couldn't deny that those actions made her feel warm inside. But at that moment, she realized something else. Her phone had been vibrating continuously, with dozens of missed calls from Hung. The feeling of confusion returned, and her heart suddenly started to race. She felt a bit anxious, but then decided to call him back. Tieu Ca picked up the phone and pressed call. As soon as the line rang, Hung quickly answered, his voice filled with concern, though slightly anxious. Tieu Ca, are you okay? I've been trying to reach you, but I couldn't get through. Is there anything I can do for you? She smiled, feeling the sincerity in Hung's voice. She was silent for a long moment, then gently replied, I'm fine, Hung. Thank you for caring. The gifts you've brought me are wonderful. The gas stove, it's really a surprising gift. When Tieu Ca mentioned the gas stove, Hung hesitated slightly, unsure of what to say. He was silent for a moment, as if thinking. Then finally, he spoke gently. That stove, actually it was your ex-husband who brought it and installed it. Hearing this, Tieu Ca's heart tightened and a sense of confusion rose within her. She hadn't expected that the man she had left behind, the one who had hurt her, would now appear in her life in this way. But she didn't want Hung to misunderstand, and she certainly didn't want him to think that she was still involved with her ex-husband. She took a deep breath, trying to stay calm in the face of the emotions rising within her. I'm no longer involved with him, Hung. Tieu Ca replied, her voice gentle yet firm. Don't think that I'm still connected to him. Everything ended a long time ago. She paused for a moment, unsure of what else to say. In her heart, there was a sense of awkwardness, not because of the stove, but because of her ex-husband's presence in her life, even through small actions like this. She felt that despite her efforts to close the chapter of the past, his shadow still lingered, always finding a way to resurface. Hung remained silent, seemingly sensing the tension in her voice. He didn't know what else to say, so he just listened to her words. They both stayed quiet for a while, neither wanting to hurt the other with careless words. Hung could feel the worry and hesitation in Tieu Ca, but he also understood that things couldn't be resolved immediately. Finally, he spoke gently. I just want you to know no matter what your past is, I will always be here for you. We won't let those things affect us. Upon hearing this, Tieu Ca's heart seemed to soften a little. She felt relieved, and the confusion in her heart gradually faded away. Though she couldn't express everything, she knew that Hung understood her, and more importantly, he wouldn't let her past hinder their relationship. They didn't say anything else, but that silence carried a deep meaning, like an unspoken promise between them that no matter what happened, they would face everything together.
Tình cảm của Tieu Ca sẽ đi về đâu trong tương lai? Liệu cô có thể mở lòng và tha thứ cho chồng cũ để tiếp tục xây dựng một cuộc sống mới bên anh? Hay những vết thương trong quá khứ sẽ mãi là những rào cản không thể vượt qua? Cô còn giữ lại chút tình cảm gì đó với người đàn ông đã từng khiến cô phải chịu đựng bao đau khổ, hay sẽ hoàn toàn chấm dứt mọi thứ về quá khứ để tìm kiếm một hạnh phúc mới? Mối quan hệ giữa Tieu Ca và Hùng đều có đủ mạnh để vượt qua những thử thách từ bên ngoài, hay sẽ bị cản trở bởi những bóng ma từ quá khứ? Dù Hùng đã luôn bên cô, sẵn sàng che chở và yêu thương, liệu anh có thể giúp Ca tìm lại tình yêu? Cô sẵn sàng vượt qua những nỗi lo bất an đó không? Mối quan hệ giữa Tieu Ca và Hùng liệu có thể phát triển trong tương lai một cách bình an, vui vẻ và hạnh phúc, hay sẽ bị đe dọa bởi bóng hình cũ? Những mối quan hệ đã qua mà cô không thể nào hoàn toàn quên được. Cả hai sẽ phải đối mặt với những thử thách không chỉ là quá khứ mà từ mối quan hệ phức tạp nhưng chưa được giải quyết. Tình yêu của họ liệu có thể vượt qua tất cả những khó khăn này, hay sẽ bị cản trở bởi những nghi ngờ và sự can thiệp từ người chồng cũ? Câu chuyện tình cảm của Tieu Ca và Hùng sẽ đi về đâu?